Hey everyone, welcome to Surviving, Thriving, and Not Crying Inside Too Much in the Real World of Dentistry. We have an awesome show for you featuring real practice owners, real associates. We're going to have an authentic conversation about how to increase success, decrease stress, protect yourself, make yourself aware and prepared. We're going to have our whole panel up in a few minutes, but I want to bring up our two practice owners. They can start their video, Dr. Lauren and Dr. Jason, whenever they are ready. There's Dr. Lauren, there's Dr. Jason. So part of Dentist Job Connect, bonding dentists together. There's a term for you, bonding dentists together to share in the joy of full contact arts and crafts on people that don't want to be there. That's what we do at dentistry. So I'm so thrilled to have my friend, Dr. Jason Tenori, went to dental school way back in the day where there was no Facebook. If you wanted to text someone, it was a 7-minute thing. You better make sure it was important. So Dr. Jason, so glad to have you here. Tell us where you're sitting, what your practice is like, and a little bit about your dental life.
I'm sitting in upstate New York, Canandaigua, New York, one of the Finger Lakes towns, and born and raised in upstate New York. Started a practice after I graduated from Penn, and it just kind of blew up on me. And as it sits now, we have 5 locations, 10 associates, and touching on about 100 employees. So life is good, keeps us busy, and just looking to grow.
So yeah, that is true. That's a true dental circus. I mean, circus you got going there. That's awesome. We'll come back in a minute, talk about your job. Dr. Lauren, where are you sitting? And tell us a little bit about your dental life.
Hey, I'm in Blacksburg, Virginia. I moved here after graduating dental school. I'm a Clemson undergrad, and I'm originally from South Carolina. I went to Medical University of South Carolina for my dental school. 09 grad, and we ended up in Blacksburg when I graduated, and it was during the recession time. It was a good position it was a good solid position at the time, and awesome. We landed here and never left. So
awesome. So you guys are just practice owners now. It's not going to all be easy layup questions. So I want to know, this is one of my favorite drinks. They're not a sponsor. One of your aha moments. If anyone knows the people at AHA and they could sponsor Dental Nachos, I would like that. I drink a lot of AHA, so I really would be a great sponsor for the group. But Jason, talk to me a little bit about your journey when you first got out of dental school. You go back and talk to yourself. We have associates watching and they say, I want to be buy one practice. I want to buy 5 practices. What are some things, maybe best practices, stuff you wish you did more of, stuff you're glad you did early in your career?
Yeah, good question. So I got lucky. I had some really good mentors early on, some people that gave me some really great advice, and I heeded it. And it was basically just take a deep dive into CE, be able to offer as many clinical skill set options to patients as possible. So just taking a ton of CE. I was gone 2-3 weekends a month. And then just reading a lot of business books. You probably get that content online now, but I'm so old that none of that stuff was really online back when we were doing this, Paul. So just a lot of really good classic business books and just taking tons and tons and tons of CE, really good CE, and being able to, say yes to patients. And if they wanted this, I could provide it, and just building the practice that way. So that's definitely the advice I give.
I love that. I mean, one of the things I share, whether, I am someone who did a multi-year GPR, whether you go right out and start taking C, I've never met a dentist once that regretted investing in themselves early in their career. I met a lot of dentists who say, you know what, I should have done this earlier. I should have invested in a continuum earlier. So I think that's awesome advice. I promise that we didn't plan this, but I brought something to make you feel comfortable, this 20-pound weight here, Jason. So, one of your friends like Mark Costas, but I talk about this a lot, and what prevents you from crying inside and outside, for whether it's insurance adjustments, the band falling on the floor, your team fighting, is developing your dental core. And you talked about business and clinical and how those two things go together. And I think that's so key. I know we're both part of the DSN Mark Costas group, and that's great. Dr. Lauren, same question for you. You graduated like 10 years after us. Doesn't mean dentistry was, drastically different, but you're starting out new in your career. What's something you would tell your younger self or one of the associates watching in to kind of get them on the right path?
I don't know. For me, I stayed at the first job I had and bought it out. I think for our decision making, why we ended up there, like I mentioned, it was during the recession. Was we have a large Virginia Tech is located here. We have a large college, and it's state run. So I guess when I got out, it was worried about being to support ourselves, and people weren't spending money in dentistry, and y'all weathered that obviously too. But for us, it was like a giant state institution pumping money in here every year, so it kind of helped us feel safe in a recession situation to be solid. And That's continued to be true, for us. I think our struggle is it's a smaller town, and if you want to grow and be something bigger, it's a little harder in a smaller town. A lot of the students, and whether people have been out or new grads, they all seem to want to go to the cities. So that's where my struggle is sometimes.
People call me the JBN guy. And what that means is, if someone does like a crown and you think it should have been a filling and it's on dental nachos, don't call them the worst dentist you've ever seen or a hack. That's kind of mean. But a JBR part, just be real, is that, I hope I can bring Jason back to Center City, Philadelphia, and you. There are like 30 world-class restaurants from where I'm standing right now in Center City, Philadelphia. So chefs come here and they get trained as chefs, and they have a lot of opportunities. In the dental space, Jason's doing the same thing. There's so many amazing opportunities in areas that they're not necessarily far off lands, but people have to find a reason to go there. And that's why I think it's an important conversation for us to have as an industry. And I think, one of the things I want to ask you, Lauren, is so I did dentists say, Jason and Lauren, they want positivity. People say they like positivity, but no, people like negative drama. Because this morning at 6 a.m., I put up 2 posts. Tell me the best thing about your associate job and tell me the worst thing. 5 comments on the best, 87 comments on the worst, right? Didn't get paid. Tell me why yours was good and what you liked as an associate that made you want to buy in, whether it was the environment, the people, the culture, the clinical care. Just curious.
Yeah, no, I think, at the time, I think it just happened to be timing with the doctor deciding when to retire age-wise. I think my husband and I, we liked the idea of a small town, and the practice itself, the employees were good, it was manageable. For me coming in, I always wanted to be with 2 doctors because I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have that backup of somebody else. And so going in, it was already a 2-doctor practice. I just never realized I might struggle with the other half once I took over, because I guess most people aren't my husband and I who didn't mind going to a smaller town. So, we're like, we'll find somebody. So, that I think for us, the fit of the community was good. The fit of the staff I've had, when I bought the practice, I still have one of the front office ladies. 2 of the hygienists are the original. Awesome. And then my assistant, 1 is original. So, I've had staff that have been there 20 plus years, way longer than me. That have stayed on. So,
that's key for your patient continuity, just people know people. One of the things I share with both you and Jason, whether any job you have, is take videos of where you are, put them on Dental Nachos, showing how much fun it is to live there, because you need to bring, whether it's drinking wine at the Finger Lakes or some sort of festival in Virginia. Now let's talk, Jason, about, you have a position on our Dentist Job Connect platform. So you're looking for an associate. Tell us your why. I tell associates to ask this question when they go interview. Why? This seems like a great practice. Why are you looking for an associate? Tell them to listen. Are they replacing someone? Is the practice growing? Tell us about your why.
Yeah, so great question. I appreciate you asking. So our why is to basically serve as many people as possible, serve our staff in a way that gives them total joy and total fulfillment. And I don't want it to stop at a staff of 5 or staff of 10 or what have you. So I'm just looking to serve as many possible people as I can, both patients, team members, and the community. And as soon as we get to a point where the wheels start coming off and the culture starts to suffer or quality care starts to suffer, then we'll pump the brakes. But I've just found that if you surround yourself with really good people, you give them a few rules to follow and just kind of let them free will the rest of it, really good things happen. And that's kind of what we're doing, and things are working out so far. So we're just looking for good people, just people that want to work, people want to make a good living, people want to just enjoy life and feel fulfilled and serve others. And that's what we're all about.
That's awesome. And so you're there, and we're on Job Connect. I have everyone from people with 70 associates to people hiring their very first associate. So I love doing this. I really do. And I love the story. So you already have 10 associates there at the practice. Would someone, if they were looking to work with you, be able to check in with some of your associates to find out about those experiences if they were watching online?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I would insist on it because, we have to be as good a fit for you as you for us. And I've had a couple, not many, but I've had a couple failed associateships, and I've learned a lot from them. And I didn't manage expectations correctly, and I didn't make sure that they were going to be a good fit for us, and vice versa. So I would insist that you come up and you spend a lot of time talking to my associates. I mean, I have associates been with me over 10 years. So just really make sure that they feel like it's a good vibe and a good fit for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a key point where I always say, I tell my wife, I don't interrupt, I just interject with value. So that's a good thing to say to your spouse. I'm not interrupting, I'm just interjecting with value, but it's about finding the right fit, just like the right treatment plan. As crazy cliche as it is, my associates, we have multiple associates, they do a lot of restorative dentistry, but we have multiple specialists. We have a surgical prosthetist doing full mouth rehab tomorrow. So they don't always get the chance to do a ton of specialty work, but they get the chance to observe a lot of specialists and build their career. Maybe that's a fit for someone. Maybe for someone else, they think that's too limiting. So I love that. Dr. Lauren, same question for you. Why are you looking for an associate? And if someone was watching this saying, I can come to Virginia, I want to work with Dr. Lauren, what kind of procedures would they be doing with you?
So I'm really bread and butter. I don't do extractions. I have a part-time associate that works like 1 day a week that's been there for almost 10 years. She does all the extractions. At this point, I think I look today and my first opening is in July for any restorative in my schedule. So, I mean, we are packed.
Yeah.
I've got 4 hygienists. I check in 4 hygiene every day and trying to cover.
That is crazy. I wear roller skates. I mean, the hygiene check is insane. It's an insane thing. There's no surgeon removing a gallbladder and someone's like, can you check?
Yeah. Can you come? Yeah.
But not in dentistry. And it really is. Tell us why, both you and Jason, because I love having, we're second half's going to be with our associates. But I know the answer to this as a practice owner of 16 years, but why is it not good to be crazy busy? Why is it not good to be booked out in July? How does that make you feel?
It's stressing me. I get into work, I'm exhausted by lunchtime and I look and there's no relief in sight, so, right. And the patients, and we do our best. I've added some Fridays to get people in. I've been staying a little later on Thursdays to get people in. And I think, each day of the week gets a little longer every time, but yeah, it's stressful and we do our best, but it's not good for the patient.
The answer is dentists are just too good at people and too nice. And we have a very hard time not saying yes to somebody who has a problem, even if they have made bad decisions to get that problem. Like they come in the last week of the year when they had the other 51 weeks to come in. I go, we were open in February, Jim. Jason, same question for you. You're someone who's just inspiring. And I know you're super humble, but you built this multiple practice group, and you want to expand. Why is it like not super comfortable if your staff is stressed and you have too many patients and there's opportunities? I just like our community to learn that growth doesn't come with only unlimited positivity. It comes with stresses and challenges.
It sure does. And it's all about capacity, right? So you have to have enough facility capacity, you have to have enough schedule capacity, provider capacity. And when you're booked out to July, I mean, that's a blessing in and of itself. But to your point, it does lead to a lot of stress. You have to turn emergencies away. You can't do same day treatment, and I'm sure you guys have systems in place to deal with all that. But I always used to kind of giggle as I would, 10, 12 years ago, I'd go to these local dental societies. People would kind of puff out their chest. Well, I'm booked out 6 months and I'm booked out 10 months. And that's awesome, but it's really not ideal business practices either. So there's a lot of opportunity costs associated with being booked out solid. And I'm glad you're addressing it, but that's not our MO. We always try to leave room for a little wiggle room for, yes, obviously emergencies, but also need to leave some wiggle room for, sanity breaks and clarity breaks and morale boosting and stuff like that. So they're good problems to have. They're first world problems, but they're all problems, none the same.
Yeah, no, then they can create a certain intensity when you can't get somebody in. And when you look at someone, it could just be for a simple hygiene check and say, you would benefit from a crown here, and then they can't get in and they want to get the crown. So that's why, I feel so proud of what we're doing here. So now, Jason, if somebody's watching, tell us where this position is. Go into the details that dentists love. This is what dentists love. It's the probing depth 3 or 4. No one can see between the probe, okay? But so tell us, where's the position? Is this full-time? And how people can reach out to you. We're going to put everything in the chat, but how they could reach out to you to learn more about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So we have a couple positions open. We have a flagship office, really big, robust office, 25 ops, usually 4 doctors and 8 hygienists are working there at any one time. And there's a position available there. And that's a great fit for certain people. It's not a great fit for other people. So if you really like a lot of chaos, a lot of camaraderie when it comes to treatment planning, and all the chaos and excitement that comes with that, that'd be a good fit for you. But some of our other offices are a little smaller, 1 to 2 doctor practices, if that's more your speed. So there's opportunities at both levels. It really just comes down to, how much mentorship you want. And again, when we're talking about your avatar of the perfect job, like you have to ask yourself those questions. How much mentorship do you want? How busy do you want to be? What kind of procedures do you want to offer? Patient base. just stuff like that. So if, long story short, from our opportunities, really at all levels, in a real big, busy practice, and then in a more low key practice.
Cool. And that's Finger Lakes area of New York. How far are you guys from Elvez and Center City? Just so that's how I measure everything in life. So
Yeah, pretty far. So
but you guys you're like what, 4 or 5 hours?
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
The biggest town that is around us is Rochester. It's about 30, well, depending on the practice that you're talking about. But here's the deal. So I understand, 100% what Lauren was saying. All the new grads and all the younger docs, they want to go to Philly, they want to go to Boston, they want to go to New York City. And that's cool, right? Because that's kind of what I wanted to do at the start too. But you reach a point in your life where you realize what's really important, at least I did. And it was having, my kids grow up in a community that wasn't total chaos, and it was a cost of living that was going to allow me to retire if I wanted to at 50 as opposed to 70. And those things are really, really important. Now, there's no South Philly Knockies, and there's no there's no New York City pizza, and there's no Boston Red Sox, and I miss a lot of the things that big cities bring. But at the end of the day, you got to kind of do a pros and cons and a cost benefit analysis. And we're in a really, really good spot.
That's awesome. And I encourage that. Dennis Job Connect, one of my proudest connections, we had a D4 moving to Illinois. Someone flew him out. It's the right fit for him. He's going to start his career there. So, geographic flexibility, if it fits into your life, can come with some amazing dental experiences. So Dr. Jason Norrie's practice, he's an amazing person. He's part of the Dental Success Network, Dental Success Institute with Dr. Mark Costas. We're going to put his job in the chat and Facebook comments, but I know my dentist people. You know what's interesting, Lauren and Jason? We got to bond stuff, right? We got to follow directions like 20 seconds. But dentists don't follow directions on Zoom at all. We don't like to follow directions outside our operatory in any way. So if you just look at this sign and you text this word job to this number, you'll see all 150 positions, including Jason Lawrence, including Dr. Lon Kessler's in the chat, including we have a GPR resident with the same last name as me. That's awesome in the chat. So also look in the chat for positions. So thanks so much, Jason. You can hang in the background if you want, but I really appreciate you sharing with us tonight. Can't wait to see you. And you're going to be there in June in Arizona like normal, or you've got a race against the Bulls in Pamplona?
Yeah, no, not quite, but I'll actually be in your neck of the woods. I got 5 kids. The youngest 2 are twin boys that are 11, and they're knee deep in lacrosse. So we'll be down in Philly and Delaware, and then heading to Maryland that whole stretch of time. So my summer's consumed with lacrosse.
Nice. Text me one of these times. We'll get a drink, get Elvez, something like that.
Yeah, I'd like that. I'll definitely do that. I really appreciate the time and being invited on, Paul. Thank you very much.
Awesome, Dr. Jason. You're the best. Thanks. Dr. Lawrence, same for you. Tell us like the details of your position, where it is, full-time, part-time, and how people can reach out to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's full-time here in Blacksburg, Virginia. Like I said, it tends to be bread and butter, but if people want to do more, that's great. Open to more than one position even if there's a husband and wife or something out there that's looking, and I'm open to, possibility of partnership in the future, or possibly a buyout or sellout, whatever. I think my focus is to get someone in my community that appreciates it for what it is. I had an associate leave. Clearly I didn't choose this path being booked out so far. It just kind of happenstance with stuff, but I'd love to have someone come in that's ready to adopt our community too. So, it's a great place though, a lot of perks for the college town. So
awesome. And you can text job to get to Dr. Lauren's number, job here. You guys can drop in the chat. You guys can listen to the awesome associates. If you have to go and do stuff with your family, no problem. But we're going to talk about associate confessions, the awesome, awful, annoying parts of the real world. But thanks for being our practice owners. You guys shared so much great value with this show. We're going to play it over and over again. So if your aunt sees it on Netflix, Lauren, that's what's going to happen. It's going to go viral. So awesome, guys. Thanks so much. You guys
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for having us.
Associates going to bring you up in 1 second. I'm just going to share a quick commercial break, and then I will be back up with our awesome associates and real world confessions. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll be glad to have the associates answer them. Okay, so I'm ready for our awesome associates, the second half of our surviving and thriving in the real world. So Dr. Marcus and Dr. Lisa can do their start their video. Spent a lot of time back here on Zoom. Start their video. They can't. Dr. Marcus, Dr. Lisa are ready for you whenever you would like to start your video as well. Let me just see if I need to do anything for Dr. Lisa. Serena, you can help me if I need to. Ask to start video for Lisa. So Marcus, as we're waiting for Lisa. Hey, Lisa. As we're waiting, so you guys are current dental associates. So excited to talk to you. I know we could talk for 7 hours to deliver value, but let's just This is what I say to patients and my team. It's a valuable thing in your office. Hey, let's just get ourselves oriented together. We're going to do a filling. We're going to do a crown. We're going to take out your wisdom teeth. We're going to not cry right now, all those things, right? So orient ourselves. Dr. Lisa, where are you? And tell us a little about your dental journey.
So I'm in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. My dental journey started right out of dental school. I actually work for a DSO. I've been there since August of 2020, right after COVID, right in the middle of COVID. Yeah, I work for a DSO. I used to have an older doctor that was in the practice. He's not there anymore. So now it's just me and a lot of chaos sometimes.
And I'm part of my job as the Dental Nachos guy is to embarrass people for being awesome. So I want to share, you've always been someone who's cared so much about doing great things for your patients. I remember walking back from the gym, Facebook messaging you about this thing or that thing, connecting you to Alan Stern. I just really want to compliment you for caring so much. You've been at Super Dentist Boost. Before we go to Marcus, I actually have just a question that will help my team and help people watching. I love Dentist Job Connect, helping associates find jobs, helping practice owners find associates. How did you find your associate job?
So a lot of DSOs will come to the dental schools, and this particular DSO came to our dental school, and I just really liked this DSO. And I really wanted to work in Connecticut and live with my best friend to save some money because I knew I was going to have to pay loans. And they said, well, we don't have any openings in Connecticut right now, but we have an opening on Cape Cod with a doctor who wants to mentor. And we really need somebody out there because he's so busy and booked out. So that's how I got there.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, actually. Dr. Marcus, same to you. Tell us about your journey, where you're working now, and especially, you and I are friends, but I don't know if I got this right. I don't know if you're at your first job right now, but how did you get that first job?
I've had a number of jobs. So graduated in 2017, did a 2-year GPR, heavy surgery on IV sedation, wisdom teeth, implants, things like that. Interesting path of getting to where I'm at now. My first job out of dental school was a DSO also. Had a gig lined up. Long story short, about a month before we were going to move and I was going to start, the guy, I had never given me a contract yet. And then they finally said that they didn't have enough patients for me. So I ended up kind of looking around and last minute ended up at a DSO. Also worked part-time at a few places while I was in residency. And now I'm at private practice with 2 locations owned by the same doc.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I want to give credit. You inspired me to do what we're doing right now, because when we have the Dental Nachos Facebook group and we have online communication, sometimes context is lost. Sometimes we're not sure. And, does this really happen? What was part of your reason for saying, hey, we should talk about some of these things that might be uncomfortable, that may have happened to me, that may have happened to my friends, so that we can help the next generation of dentists coming up? What inspired you to do that?
Well, I feel like, especially and not just in Dental Nachos, on a lot of the dental Facebook pages and social media pages in general, at times between associates and between each of the groups are looking at things from their side.
We're losing you a little bit, Marcus. You might not be losing us. We lost for 1 second there. So you might not just say what you said again, because we lost you for a second.
Was just saying that on the social media pages, there's a lot of differences, I guess, one side viewing things differently than the other. And so being able to just talk about like what a practice owner is looking for when they're looking for an associate. And then from our standpoint as associates, some things to look out for that you may not know. Because a lot of the things I've experienced, nobody told me in school. Nobody really told me until I was in it and was like, I wish somebody would have told me about that.
What's interesting, and I'm glad you said that. So I did have a life before Dental Nachos. I didn't just sprout up on Facebook like a Cabbage Patch guy. So I've been teaching at a residency program since 2005 that I did with GPR residents. And for a long time, I was going in weekly. Now I go in monthly and give a life after residency talk about jobs, about working with teams, about what's happening. And frequently what I hear from residents years later is, you know what, Paul? Sometimes when I was sitting in that room, I thought you were being negative. Sometimes I was sitting in your room, I thought you were crushing my dream. But when I want to tell you, everything you said came true. All the things you said about, team members not having my back or this not getting paid. And it was just because I cared so much to make them aware. I think that's the key, care to make people aware. Let's go to you, Dr. Lisa. This is a great question for you because it's only a couple of years ago. but what was a real aha moment for you, whether it was with patients, whether it was with teams, that you're like, man, I was not prepared for this feeling at all?
So I think the biggest aha moment for me was that when I got into my practice, I thought I was going to have a full-on mentor, like come over, finish my crown preps, teach me how to do endo, do extractions with me, like hold my hand basically through everything. And I got there, and the doctor, he was about 73, still excellent doctor, doing excellent work. He was seeing 15 patients a day. Did he have time to help me?
Please
No.
pause there for a second. This is where I want to really point something out. I'm not going back to dental school, so anything that I share is just to help people, even with you guys. I worked with my dad, and he told me to do a GPR for this reason, because you're playing your own game of basketball. You're shooting your own shots as the practice owner. So I can most definitely tell the awesome Dr. Alicia, Dr. Lisa, my brother, oh, that impression coping, that's the wrong one. Go use a different one. But to go into an operatory and do hands-on mentorship in private practice is nearly impossible. It really does stink because, Marcus's wife, I know, is a MD. Physicians, they freaking trape 6 people into the room. They look at the thing, look at this guy's spot, you take it off, and people go, this is normal. You bring in one other dentist and the patient starts to freak out. So it doesn't mean that mentorship is not possible, but your point is such a good one. Marcus, same question for you on aha moment, to follow up on Lisa, or just share your own aha moment.
So a little bit different than that, but in kind of the same vein. I did the 2-year residency, and like I said, we learned how to take out wisdom teeth. And I guess my first, we'll call it that stress sweat moment was taking out a wisdom tooth, and I got to a point where I couldn't get the last piece of it. I had sectioned it, it was impacted, and I just couldn't get it. And I was like, oh man, and mind you, it's private practice. So now I got hygiene checks, I got other patients coming. Whereas in residency, you could always go, and my program directors, Drs. Pruitt and Coleman, they were always available. So if I really got in a pinch, I could be like, I'm stuck. And they'd be like, all right, let me get you out of this. But I looked around and there was nobody. And I even gave the patient a little break. I said, it was really for me, but I gave him a break. I was like, hey, we're gonna give you a break, rest a little bit. And I went in the bathroom and Googled oral surgeon near me, and the office I was at, the office I was at, it was the only thing that came up. So I ended up getting it out, and everything turned out well. But that was kind of my first, you're in the big leagues now. This is
one of the things I'll share. We work with specialists in our office, and I know this. It always makes you feel better when you struggle and someone else struggles as well. And that's not a toxic feeling inside of you. That's a human feeling. So couple stories from me. One, the other day, one of our specialists ran 30 minutes behind because they couldn't get out a root tip because it was so curved, but they're the specialists. They got to keep going. We work with an endodontist who would do 8 cases a day, but inevitably she would get stuck on one case and run behind. This is someone who only does that. So it's very normal what happened to you, Marcus. However, it is the stress sweat. I like that term. And it's challenging to do. One of my first experiences as an associate, the other practice owner referred me 3 extractions on a 40-year-old with root tips broken off of the bone. He was scheduled with me for 2 hours. I never met him. I looked at his mouth. I said, this is not going to go well. So I referred him to an oral surgeon, which took a lot of courage. I said, I'll call the oral surgeon, send you over now. I called him that night on the phone. This was in 2006. He didn't pick up. Called me back the next day. He goes, Paul, I was in so much pain. It took that oral surgeon 2 hours to get these teeth out. So just because it's hard for you doesn't mean it's not hard for someone else. And that is really a great story. I'm going to give you guys I have a good script for you guys, and on verbal skills. So when what Marcus said was good. When something's going off script, nothing goes wrong. It just goes off script, like Hamilton, just goes outside of your playbook. Just stop, get up, and say to the patient, hey, I want you to take out your phone and rest your jaw. It's hard to be open. Just rest your jaw. It's not a lie, right? It could be hard to be open. And it gives what you said, Mark, give yourself a break. Break the chain of stress and intensity. Crown doesn't fit. You're not sure what to do. Just say, hey, take a jaw break, take out your phone. It's going to save you. Sometimes just walking out and walking back in reframes the situation. So great one. Now we're going to go on in a second, but now we're going to go to something. So I asked, what is the craziest thing you've seen in an associate contract? And I'm going to read some that came back from Facebook. You owe $500 a day that you end your contract early. 50-mile non-compete. If you leave without 60 days notice, you owe $850 per day before you leave. So if you give 2 weeks notice and says 60 days, you owe $25,000. A non-compete spanning 2 entire counties. Associates shall pay to host liquidated damages, a breach of sum of 65% of the associate's last 12 months of fees charged to patients. 32-mile non-compete. They could unilaterally change the contract without notice. I'll give you a couple more here. Company owns any creations, inventions that I come up with. 12-mile non-compete in the middle of Phoenix. This is one that's really crazy. Employees not allowed to make any other income. So I read through these, and one of the things, if somebody watches this, only listens to one thing I ever say, ever, it would be, before you sign contract, get attorney to review it, because only good happens. An attorney says, hey, Marcus, this is pretty good working for Dr. Paul and Jeff Goodman. They asked for a 5-mile restrictive covenant. Maybe we'll ask for 3, but if they don't agree to it, it's no big deal. You're going to get paid. That's great from an attorney. Or they say, hey, Dr. Lisa, XYZ office over here, there's 12 red flags and we didn't get to page number 2. So let's go to associate contract challenges. You don't have to talk about yourself, but Lisa, have you seen associate contract challenges with you, your friends, or other people in the dental world?
Yes and no. So my contract was pretty straightforward. However, looking back, I should have definitely had a lawyer review it, because all of us just took our contracts to the 5th floor of the dental school and said, hey, can you look this over? And then by the time they got to yours, they'd already looked over 10 other ones. But I did have a really nice doctor sit down with me at lunch and look over it. But my non-compete was 15 miles, I think, in Cape Cod. And so I got that down to 5 miles. I do have to give 90 days notice before I leave. So that's a pretty big one that I probably should have.
So you wish you would have asked to negotiate that. So the termination notice, 30 to 60 days is within normal limits, use a dental term. So these 6 months, just to show how problematic this can be, 6 months can prevent you from buying a practice, prevent you from moving with your spouse, prevent you from doing something significant. So hopefully someone's watching this. Serena could put in the chat, I have a whole course on this. So if you text LIES to 215-543-6454, you can watch that. Marcus, same question to you. Tell me about some contract crises, challenges that you've heard or seen, whether with you personally or with your dental friends.
Yeah, the $850 a day that you don't give 60 days, that was me. I saw that one in one that I've seen before. Seeing long restrictive covenants. One that is an emphasis for me that you might want to look into if you're looking at a contract. Offices will consider pictures of active patients of the office, property of the office, and they can say once you leave, you can't use the property of the office anymore. So if I have an Instagram page that's all work of mine. So if I stop working at that office, then, and that clause isn't in there, then technically I could be made to have to delete all of my portfolio, all of my social media stuff. And if you have any kind of lectures and things that you plan on giving, that would be important to have in there too. Or if you want to get any kind of accreditation in any organizations, you got to have access to old chart notes and things like that. So just putting something like that in there would be good. And just really asking all of the questions that you could have, to make sure the hours are ones that you're okay with. Ask if they're planning on bringing on anybody else.
Right.
Ask if they're planning on opening another office. Are you going to have to go to all the locations? Is the restrictive covenant from all of the offices if it's a group that they own, even if you haven't gone there?
Really good one.
Because that could put you out of a whole state just off of that.
And these are awesome ones, Marcus. And the thing that I'll say, this is based on a true story that's actually true from my podcast partner. I can't say the person's name, I don't know, but you think not being able to use your Instagram pictures, so you can't lecture for me at Dental Nachos is a big deal. How about this one? this associate left, wasn't allowed to use her own name in her new practice, was not allowed to use her name because they tried to say that was solicitation and letting patients know. So
That's crazy.
one of the things is when there's a crazy clause in a contract, it's there for two reasons. One, the people are trying to take advantage of you, or two, they're unaware. But both of those reasons are bad reasons for you as an associate. Both of those reasons are bad use. We have a question from the audience I'd like to ask both of you guys. Let's start with you, Lisa. Is a draw better than no daily guarantee, or is it better to turn a draw down and just ask to be paid on collections?
Do not do a draw. It's very stressful. I am on a draw right now. It is very stressful. Whenever Alyssa's my fiance, who's also a dentist at Tufts right now. Whenever any of her friends ask about a draw, I say, do not take the draw.
like that.
Run away from the draw. It's very stressful. You are depending on your front desk to collect for you. And if you have a high turnover at the front desk, like I have right now, it's extremely stressful. So run away.
Love that advice.
No draw.
Marcus, you probably agree with your boost buddy, Lisa, but anything to add on the draw?
She knocked it out of the park. And for those of you who don't know,
Love you, Marcus.
For those of you that don't know, a draw is you're going to get a daily minimum of, let's just say, $500 a day, or a percentage of collections, usually whichever is more. But what they'll do is if your percentage and your take home was only $300 on a day, you owe them $200. They'll pay you the 500, but there's like an account where you owe them $200. So on the days where you overproduce and your take home is 1,000, they give you the 1,000. On the days where you underproduce and you only produce 300, they'll give you 500, but you're 200 in debt to them. So I've had friends who come time to leave, they're like, all right, I'm out. And they're like, okay, I need 18,000 cash. And that's post-tax 18,000. And so you either have to just stay when you want to leave. It can prevent you from, like you were saying, moving, going with your spouse, taking a new job, buying a practice without coming out of a good amount of cash. So I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take a contract with a draw. And at this point, I think a daily guarantee is a sticking point for me, even though it's not as common to find those as you think. I'd say about 80% of the contracts I see don't have that.
My hope is to kindly annoy people into being better to each other. Associates, owner, I don't care who I'm annoying, my own family, and I can learn myself. But what it just drives me nacho nuts. So I've hired like 8 to 10 dentists, from specialists to GPs. And I think this is actually the better way to describe it. So we create year contracts and we say, hey, Dr. Lisa, we love working with you, but we don't know, let's do a year and let's see how you feel afterwards, right? Let's see how you feel. Over this year, if you work 200 days for us, we're going to pay you $120,000 NMW, no matter what. It's a guaranteed yearly salary. We're going to pay you $120,000 no matter what. And what we're going to do is at the end of the year, we're going to pay you 33% of your net collection. So if you collect $600,000, that's $200,000. So on the last day of work, we're going to take 200, subtract 120, and give you a big check for $80,000. How does that sound to you? That is how I do it. Now, we don't do the 80 grand at the end. We square up throughout the year because we don't want to have some trailing thing. But if you only produce what's $105,000, you get to keep the 120, and it's not your fault. It's not our fault. It's my responsibility as the owner to make sure you have the patience, right? It's my responsibility as the owner to make sure. So I think this guaranteed salary with bonus incentives is the best way to describe associates working. One of the things is, what's interesting about owners sometimes, and I do this, like give people contracts you would want to sign yourself. That's what I do. Give people contracts you want to sign yourself. You pay your front desk team members, you pay your hygienists, you pay your assistants. And I don't know why the associates have been left on this island. Have you seen, Lisa and Marcus, this go sideways for your friends? Not necessarily with the draw, just not having a guarantee and not being busy enough, or only doing class 1 occlusals. I'll let you go first, Marcus.
Yeah, I've had, and like I said, I've been, and I looked before, and most of them were part-time when I was in residency. So I would go for 2 hours after residency or on a weekend day or something. So in total, I worked at 8 offices. And between all of the offices, I've had days where there was no guarantee and I get paid on percent of production, but there was no production. So I've had days where it was zero. I made zero.
Yeah.
And I've had also days where I produced 15,000 worth of stuff. So there can be a lot of or a level of unpredictability if there's no guarantee, because like you said, the staff, there's no real detriment if the staff doesn't really give you a really productive schedule.
And what I also want to show you, hit on a good topic. And I know we both like old fashions, and it doesn't totally fit because alcohol consumption leads to drunkenness. But like, I don't want 10 old fashions on a Saturday and then none for the next 8 Saturdays.
Right.
I'd rather have like 2 per weekend, 1 week. So whether you're a high level salesperson, a dentist, making these weird parts of money, it's not comfortable. Nobody really wants to make 8,000 one week, $8 the next week. It's much better to be able to consistently plan. Lisa, same question to you. Have you seen some either not having guarantees or not having enough of patients go sideways for you or friends?
Yeah, so I'm on a draw actually. I'm lucky because the other doctor was just very busy at a very big patient following. So, I mean, it took months for me to be able to even come into the hygiene room and talk to these people. So I'm on a draw. I'm lucky. We're very busy. It is stressful. But I combat that by getting my production report at the end of every day, my sheet, the report sheet, and I look at who paid. I look at what we collected. I looked at the UCF, and I make sure, patients are paying before they walk out the door. And I just kind of try to train the front desk to, hey, that person can't walk out the door without paying for at least a part of their crown today. And so the front desk understands that pretty well. But if you have days where your schedule's empty or it falls apart, it's definitely stressful. And then, you want your full schedule the next day with, a couple crowns, a lot of fillings, things like that. So
you're saying a good thing before Marcus goes. One of the things that's challenging is new associates don't have patient relationships. No one's going to come in. New patients are great, but they're new patients for a reason. Every single Monday, I see a lot of new patients for big implant consults, and some want to do it, and the rest of them just leave and don't pay. If my whole livelihood was based on those new patient implant consults, it would be difficult. So when you're in a new associate and you don't have patient relationships, it's very normal for people not to have the trust in you to do the care that they would with me or my brother or even you a few years ago. I want to share, we're only going to keep Marcus and Lisa for another about 10, 12 minutes. So if you have any other questions, just drop them in the chat or the Q&A. But Marcus, same thing for you as follow-up there. Anything did you want to add to that?
I'm going to piggyback off of what you were just talking about. Being a new associate to an office, there's even times where you're doing a hygiene check and it's Mr. Smith who's been going to that practice for 15 years, and you say they need a crown, and they go up front and they're like, all right, you get a crown with Dr. Cowan, and they're like, actually, I want to see Dr. John. I've been coming to Dr. John for 15 years, and nothing against me. They just, like you said, they don't have the relationship with me, so they're going to go with who they're comfortable with. So that kind of slippage, we'll call it, can happen when you're not doing anything wrong. It's just they're more comfortable with the place that they've been coming for a while.
I want to add in a tip you could tell your practice owner. So I deal with this, but when I have associates, I want them to see the associate. So when I'm involved in these things, but I know I'm fairly confident with my verbal skills, if it's Lisa and it's you, Marcus, I say, Lisa, I want to share the joy of your mouth with Dr. Marcus. Who am I to deprive everyone of me being your only dentist? How about this? How about you see Dr. Marcus for this crown? And this is the golden phrase. If I was getting a crown on this tooth, Lisa, I would be totally confident with Dr. Marcus. They got to say that about you. And then I say to you, Lisa, you're one of my valued patients. When you see Dr. Marcus, I want to let you know afterwards, if there's any problems, I want you to call my cell phone. Here's my number. And they never call, and they love Dr. Marcus, and now they got 2 dentists. But it's up to the practice owner to have that conflict-oriented discussion and the hygienist for us all to be on the same page. And when they don't do that and they take the path of the resistance and say, okay, stuff it in my schedule, Dr. Marcus sticks with class 1 occlusals and emergencies, and then the owner doesn't have enough patience. So hopefully you guys caught some of that. And sometimes maybe you can be like, hey, this Nacho guy said you should say this. And because they'll say it, they just don't know how to say it. Hey, Lisa, I hired Dr. Marcus because I trust what he does. And here, insert this procedure. So don't make it second molar root canal retreat, right? Don't put your, say this crown on this lower left tooth. If it was my crown, I would be glad to have Dr. Marcus do it on me. And it's that type of confidence a practice owner has to show in their associate. So really good tips. Now, As we wrap up, I want this question, and this doesn't have to be a personal one that happened to you. It's just, it is a fun one. Don't violate any HIPAA, don't violate anything, but like, what's something that's happened in the real world of dentistry that's just kind of crazy? It could be a team interaction. It could be, I didn't believe that this could happen with a patient. It could be with assistants, could be with people not showing up. And it doesn't have to be overly dramatic. It's just sort of like, hey, dental students and residents, we have a resident with my last name watching in. This is something I didn't think happened in the real world, but it does happen in the real world. Lisa, do you want to go first? Do you want Marcus to go first?
So I would say the craziest thing that I didn't think was going to be that bad is checking hygiene in the middle of seeing like your own 10 patients a day. At one point, they put 3 hygienists in the building, and I called my regional manager and I said, absolutely not. I cannot do this. I almost cried today. And then we went back to 2 hygienists, and that's way more than enough for me. Yeah. Checking 2 hygienists in the middle of doing full contact.
I mean, when you're doing your own full contact, you're being fake nice to this person. Now you got to get up and go be fake nice to someone else. When I say fake nice, I don't mean disingenuous. I just mean dentists aren't allowed to have bad days in front of the patients. Dentists aren't allowed to be short in front of the patients. Dentists have to put on their happy face all the time. And when you're doing a class 2 where the ring thing fell off the tooth, and you say to your assistant, can I have the other ring thing? And it's a mangled pedo one. And you go, I guess this will do. That's when you want to cry inside. So great one, Lisa. Marcus, how about you?
I'll piggyback +1 on the hygiene checks. I guess one thing in the real world that to me was like, and this is crazy, is that the patients, there's a lot of people who are really fearful of dentistry. And I think that the patients that we all had in dental school, because they knew it was going to take a long time, and they knew that it was going to take a bunch of visits, but it was going to be cheap and they were going to get good product. It's almost, there's a different level of expectation. Yeah. Versus in private practice.
That is, so they're lifers. They're dental school. I've actually said this because I like the movie Back to the Future. If I could travel back in time, I would want to go up to my dental school patients and thank them for letting me work on them and be like, I appreciate you sitting there for 17 visits for a denture. One of the visits, we just took out the bite rim and looked at it and put it back in the box. So I think that is really valuable. The hygiene checks and the expectations of people. If you went to a restaurant school, you would go and you would say the food tastes good, but I'll wait extra time because there are new people cooking. But you guys both were in Philly. Alves is like a well-oiled machine, and people are not. If you had a new server, a new chef, they could want to be mentored, but if they messed up the operation, it could be really tough. So I think that's super, super valuable from both you guys.
Yeah, and just like Lisa said, the mentorship in private practice is also very different than it is in the real world. It's you can talk in the morning and then after work.
I'm glad you said that. I worked with my dad for 11 years before he passed away. It was amazing. So people say, oh, you had your dad. Right. We drove in and didn't talk till we drove out sometimes. So, I mean, that is just, I would give advice to anyone, and you could be in associate already, go observe at other dental offices. I mean, Marcus and Lisa, do you think that if you went and observed at Todd Fleischman's office, you would learn something by being inside of his office for a day?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going to observe at a Pankey trained doctor's office on April 26th in Boston, because it's just what you need to do when you're alone.
Just see how other people run their businesses and practices. Kind of a wrap up is, you guys have been part of Dental Nachos, and this is not for me to make me feel better, because I know it's going to feel better. Being part of Dental Nachos, coming to Super Dentist Business Boost, doing this, how does that impact you in an actionable way in patients? So, while I would love for you to say, I like to be kinder to other dentists and I'm glad to be part of a community, boring, I don't want that. I want, when you go into your office, whether it was someone you saw at Boost, whether it was my verbal tips, or it was a community, how does it make you improve your morale? How does it make you feel like you have a better dental core with that? Marcus, I'll let you go first.
I'll say my biggest take home is your verbal cues. The way you communicate with people is very simplistic, so it's not off-putting to any patients, but it also gets your point across very completely without scaring anybody. Yeah. And certain keywords will make people tense up and get tight, but you have a way of using a lot of words and phrases that I've stolen add and
Not
sprinkle
stolen,
in my
just
stuff.
repurposed. I'm proud. somebody, I want to say this now, like there was actually on Instagram, this funny dentist who was holding up a sign and it said dentisting. And someone's like, oh, that's your word part. I'm like, I'm proud. Anyone can use that word, right? Maybe it wasn't even for me. So the more we share these words, like don't say fail, say replace, don't say virgin. It's very weird on a 10:30 a.m. at a Tuesday, say tooth without a filling. I mean, even my buddy Jason there, you caught him. He said, I had some failed associateships. No, he didn't. I had associateships that went off script. Nothing fails. Nothing goes wrong. And I was saying this on a podcast today, and if I could help dentists in this way and patients, when I have a new assistant and they work with me, and then I say, oh, what was it like working with me versus like other dentists? Not a challenge or a contest. They say, you make it like it's fun in here. And this is what they say. You talk to patients like you're talking to a friend. And if that can help you guys in any way, don't be your dentist weird self. Try to bring about as much fun and friending into your operatory as possible. So I appreciate that, Marcus. How about you, Lisa?
So yeah, I think you definitely teach us how to talk to patients really well, which I appreciate. But I think one of the most important things that I've taken away just being a new dentist is that I probably Instagram message Marcus like once a week and bother him with cases and how he can help me. I message Todd now to help me. I obviously met Alan Stern, and I wanted to say, Paul, not everything about my DSO is bad. I actually do enjoy working there, and they did send me to Panky,
Cool.
which I'm very grateful for because I've met some really good mentors and learned a lot of great things through that. But yeah, I think Dental Nachos has really helped me find friends and really good mentors and people to look up to, and just somebody to help when I just need help with cases.
I absolutely love that. I kind of say this phrase at Dental Nachos, and maybe you'll see my thing. I say, who are your FIPS, right? Who are your FIPS, and who are your friends in your phone? And who can you call when stuff goes wrong? Who can you text when stuff goes wrong? Who can you text when stuff goes funny? Who can you text when stuff goes annoying? So I shared this about me, and I have these people. I mean, you guys are, of course, my friends, but when the pandemic started, and things, I had a big CE course and someone else had a big CE course. Mark Costas and I were texting all the time. And he is my friend in my phone. So I know when something goes wrong, I can count on Mark to give me some feedback. And that is, dentists need more of that. We all need more of that, but it can be so isolating out there. So increase your FIPS and be a FIP to other people. So I think that's awesome. As we wrap up, Marcus, I want to do this part because we had one and I didn't do it. How can people reach out to you? How can someone reach out to Dr. Marcus Cowan, follow you on Instagram, email you? Tell us that for the video here.
Yeah, so in the chat, I'll put my email address. It's Marcus, Marcus, Cowan, COWAN, DMD @gmail.com. And then on Instagram, I have a dental specific Instagram where I post cases, some restorative, some as well. And it's Marcus Cowan, MARCUS, COWAN, DMD on Instagram. So reach out if you want to talk about cases, something you got coming up, a contract, any of that kind of stuff. I'll be glad to talk with you.
Thanks, Marcus. Really, really appreciate that. Lisa, how about you?
Yeah, anyone can email me what it's like working for the DSO. It's not all bad. It's good. I don't mind it. I'm still there. But it's lisa.duckles8@gmail.com, and I'll put it in the chat. And definitely follow Marcus's Instagram. He has awesome stuff on there. And like I said, I message him once a week at least and ask him about stuff, and he always answers. So
awesome. And I'm going to do one little overtime for basketball because I just hit something. I see something. So if you guys give me 2 more minutes, I want to get to these questions that I missed here. So if you could give a lightning round of questions. Dr. Lisa, did your school prepare you for molar, endo, or surgical extractions? Are you comfortable doing them? Did you take any C to help you?
that is a good question. So yes, my school prepared me really well for surgery. I hate surgery. So I did like 2 surgical extractions, cried after work that day, and then didn't do any more. Endo, no, they did not prepare me well for molar endo. I decided I don't want to do any kind of specialist stuff. I only want to do crown bridge, restorative, full mouth rehab one day, hopefully. So no, I don't do any of that stuff. And no, my school did not prepare me well for endo.
Thanks for that. Marcus, I know you did the 2-year GPR. So talk a little bit about your 2-year GPR and how that helped make you feel comfortable with going in and doing surgical extractions.
Yep. So out of dental school, was I prepared for surgical extractions? Probably. I sought it out in my patient population, so I did a good number more than the graduation requirement. So because I pushed for it, I felt comfortable with the extractions. Molar endo, not as a student. They had an honors endo program, but only a few people got in, and I don't do any endo now. I hate it, so I wasn't pushing for it. In residency, I really got a lot more confidence with the extractions, and I got my speed up because I was able to do a good number. I actually did some molar endo in residence, so I don't do any endo anymore, but I still do it. Hello?
We lost you for a second, but you're good. You were telling much how much you love endo. No, I'm just joking. You're saying
molar endo bad, extraction good.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what you guys both share is you want to find some focus. You know, you're not specialists in either things, but you're just find some focus. Doing all of it well is nearly impossible. But whether you focus on full mouth rehabs, Lisa, or you focus on surgical extractions. Marcus, how long did you're still at your job, Lisa, but how long did you stay at your first job before you moved on?
A little over a year. And I was at a DSO as well. So I was there for a little over a year, and then I went into the private practice, 2 offices that I'm in now.
Awesome. Spicy question. Someone said, I have a current contract that includes the $850 a day if I leave with less than 90 days notice, but the job opportunity is in a location I love and overall seems like a good job right out of dental school. Do you think it's a deal breaker to have the $850 a day with 90 days notice? I will share that. Please text attorney to 215-543-6454 so Rob Montgomery can look at this, because the person who asked this, I say this in the most kindly, loving, annoying way. If that's in your contract, there's probably other stuff in your contract that you don't notice. That is a problem. So most definitely, Serena, just put in text attorney to 215-543-6454. But Lisa, would that be a deal breaker for you? The $850 a day? It would be for me too.
Because you have no idea. You have no idea what you're getting. If they're not busy, you have to ask them how many new patients they have. You need to know, I don't know. There's just a lot of things you need to know. You need to know how the office collects. You need to know how they schedule, how your assistants are. Do you even have an assistant? How many rooms do you have? So yeah, if you don't like the atmosphere of the office, then you're just kind of stuck being miserable.
Marcus, we're same to you. Deal breaker on that?
3 months notice is a long time.
Yeah,
and it
3 months notice with the penalty, that's like a $70,000 penalty.
Right,
$70,000. So I see.
Right.
I want to share with everybody. You know, Marcus is on this platform. You'll see Lisa sitting in the audience for like 12 hours. This Nacho Flix has so many C courses on extractions, endo, digital dentistry. Just text Guac to 215-543-6454. You get to watch it. I want to sound like the old man here to my friends and people watching. You know, I had none of this when I was a young dentist, right? It was me and Jason with our gray beards. We didn't have a phone where you could watch Todd Fleischman do a crown prep. Is that a pretty cool thing to have, Marcus?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
like Lisa was saying, just being able to network with other people, it makes all the stuff, all the difference in the world. Just to be able to, a crown, they did the shade really nice. You can send a group message to your friends like, yeah, you know, and then the days where you're like, oh my God, I tried to get this root tip out for 40 minutes and you're like, oh my gosh, I hate my job. I'm never doing extractions again.
And so that's why we have your mentor, Artie Volker. He just did the Super Bowl CE. There's so much great content. You can watch these amazing people break down what they do. So Marcus and Lisa, you guys are awesome. Can't wait to see you in May, Marcus. And I know we're going to see you again here in Philly, Lisa. Thanks for being a part of this. I'm not going to shut the Zoom off yet, but we'll just shut off our cameras. If you see any questions, you can type in some, but so appreciate your time doing this with us. Anybody, if you're looking for a job, text job to 215-543-6454. If you're looking to hire an associate, text hire to this number. You may be lucky to meet people as awesome as Marcus and Lisa. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.